Hi everyone, my name is Anthony Bernard and I'm one of the co-chairs on the CoNCENSUS working group. Sorry that I'm not able to present live, but hopefully this presentation and the report will provide sufficient information on our initial progress. So the high-level aim of the working group is to advance the standardization of the coastal and nearshore demersal fish visual census techniques and build a community of practice that promotes fair data and ensures that the research efforts at a global scale contribute meaningfully towards addressing societal challenges. So to achieve this aim, we have four main terms of reference. The first being to investigate solutions that enhance the complementarity and interoperability of different visual census methods. And this will be done through parallel evaluations of the status of coastal and nearshore benthic fish assemblages in relation to environmental and anthropogenic drivers at scales relevant to global and regional reporting. Our second objective is focused on best practices, and the working group will allow the community to establish best practice guidelines and provide recommendations on how to best utilize data from multiple methods to address scientific questions relevant to different stakeholders. Our third term of reference is focused on the data management protocols, workflows, and policies. The end goal here is to enable fair data management and improve the flow of data to global repositories such as OBIS, and then also to advance the establishment of goose essential ocean variables for fishes. Lastly, we want to determine priority areas for engagement, capacity development, and research to strengthen the global research network and evaluate the potential of emerging and alternative research techniques. In terms of the main activities, there has been ongoing work that I'll cover in the next slide, but some of the more general activities are provided here. So we had an in-person working group meeting in Tasmania in January 2023. This coincided with the Temperate Reef Symposium, which helped support travel. And the focus of the meeting was to advance the data management terms of reference and drafting the work plan and strategy for this terms of reference. Following this meeting, we had some of the members as well as collaborators participated in the Reef Life Survey workshop, which focused on capacity development of early career researchers within the field. The working group also supported a capacity development workshop in the Seychelles, which was led by Dr. Kaylee Smith and funded through the SCOR Visiting Scholars Program. The workshop focused on strengthening the network of researchers in the region that use baited cameras to survey fishes. We were then also successful in a co-funding application to support the work being undertaken through CoNCENSUS by the National Research Foundation of South Africa. A portion of this will be used to host a working group meeting in South Africa later in 2024, but the grant also includes 2 postdoctoral fellows that will play an important role in advancing the work that we need to do. And then we also provided feedback to the Goose Biology and Ecosystems panel on the progress of CoNCENSUS and discussed how it will play or how it can play a role in the development of the fish essential ocean variable implementation plans. So work towards all 4 of the terms of reference is ongoing and progress has been varied due to a number of challenges. For terms of reference 1, we conducted an initial review of available data and decided that more existing data sets needed to be sourced, processed and incorporated into the analysis. A large volume of underwater visual census and baited camera data have been collected over the last 5 years, and delaying the analysis for this tour will allow for these data to be utilized. For terms of reference 2, we haven't been able to make progress on the drafting and endorsement of best practices, as this is dependent on the completion of the community engagement process being implemented through terms of reference 4, but these will be prioritized in the next reporting period. However, we have made nice progress on a supplementary output that aims to improve the relevance of size data from baited cameras for fisheries managers. This project is working with fisheries scientists in South Africa and Australia and will hopefully increase the volume and completeness of length frequency data that can be extracted from videos through computer vision. For the data management terms of reference, following the meeting in Hobart, the draft data management infrastructure and workflow plan was produced. That was built around 5 key criteria, being ease of use, leveraging existing infrastructure and systems, low maintenance, cloud-based, and then lastly, compliance with relevant data policies and fair data. For the terms of reference 4, the key component of this was to perform a global assessment of the community of practice. The first stage was a bibliometric analysis of the global literature relevant to underwater census of coastal and nearshore fishes. This work is being done by a PhD student and will hopefully be submitted for publication before the end of the year. The work is producing some interesting results for the working group, so I'll quickly highlight some of the findings here. So in total, a corpus of 1,500 documents spanning the time frame between 1953 and 2023 were collated using standardized search terms from Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar. And then the bibliometric analysis were run in the Cortex software using natural language processing. Here we just show a bar graph for the number of publications per year on the left, and then an epoch diagram on the right showing the relative frequency that the different methods have been used through time. Looking at the annual publication rate, it's obvious that the field of research has grown substantially since the mid-1990s to about 2020. 2023 is an incomplete year, but between 2020 and 2022, the growth in publication rate has plateaued. This might suggest the field has peaked, but it also could reflect the impact of the COVID pandemic. When looking at the epoch diagram, you can clearly see that the scuba underwater visual census has been the predominant method since the 1990s, while research utilizing beta cameras has seen a rapid growth from about 2005 onwards. Presently, these two methods account for over 50% of the literature. So 15 high-level research themes were identified from the analysis, and for example included topics related to reef ecosystems, mesophotic depths, marine reserves, and oil and gas platforms. And then census method varied by research theme, with remote vehicles, autonomous underwater vehicles, and towed video preferred in research associated with seafloor industries, such as the oil and gas platforms, while ecological research and research associated with the marine reserves was predominantly carried out with underwater visual census, baited cameras, and diver-operated video. So here we summarize the global participation in the field. Dots on the map on the left are scaled to represent the number of affiliations listed on the publications for each country, and then represents the effort or investment in the field at a national level. The epoch diagram on the right shows how the relative investment in the field of research has changed through time, with the countries arranged based on their contribution to the field at the time, and then the path thickness reflecting the relative number of publications. Together, these maps or these diagrams show that the field has been dominated by research from Australia, the USA, and to a lesser extent, France and the United Kingdom. However, the scale of growth in publications of research from Australia since about 2005 has overwhelmed efforts from other countries. This also shows quite nicely that Brazil and Indonesia are emerging as important role players in the field of research. You can also see that the African continent had the lowest level of participation in the field of research, with only 23% or 9 countries represented in the literature. While there are some exceptions, this shows that the investment is skewed towards developing nations and that there is a need to support and expand the field within these developing nations. In terms of capacity development, we have been mostly focusing on direct training and knowledge exchange interventions. This work was either done under the banner of CoNCENSUS or through existing projects that working group members and collaborators are involved in. A highlight here was the engagement with researchers from the Maldives and India, and knowledge exchange on remote operated vehicles and stereo beta camera sampling methodologies. This was facilitated by the Necton mission, and also included training on the use of tools for deep sea research down to about 1,000 meters depth using baited cameras. And then added to this list would also be the workshops that were held in Australia and the Seychelles that were listed under the activities slide. In terms of the plans moving forward, we'll advertise for postdocs soon and hopefully have one starting in January and another in April 2024. We are then planning to have a large in-person meeting in October 2024, where we'll try to make considerable progress across all terms of reference, but specifically terms of reference 1 and 2. In terms of the capacity developments, we'll be starting a series of science to policy engagement meetings to better understand how underwater census research could support decision-making at local and national scales. And then we'll be continuing with our focused capacity development through training interventions. We'll also then use the October meeting to expand our activities on this front and address some of our goals with teaching and the development of teaching materials. In terms of the specific plans for the terms of reference, for terms of reference 1, we'll complete the data collation for both the response and predictive variables, and then begin building analysis frameworks with the goal of running analyses and drafting outputs during the October meeting. For the best practices, we'll complete the work that we are doing with the size data extraction methods, and then begin the engagement with the visual census, remote operated vehicle, and diver operated video research communities. A research network will be established through the next activity initiated with Terms of Reference 4, and then this will facilitate the work on the best practices. For the data management terms of reference, we're going to finalize the infrastructure and workflow plan and develop and test the system with available data. And then lastly, for terms of reference 4, we'll publish the bibliometric analysis and then run the Community of Practice online survey. The data collection for this survey should be completed around May, June, and then the write-up will continue into early 2025. All right, and I think I'll end it there. So thanks very much for your time, and sorry again that I couldn't be with you live to take questions, but feel free to contact me via email if needed.